When Steve Harvey entered an upscale New York City restaurant, he anticipated a serene evening. Instead, he encountered a troubling instance of clear discrimination. What happened next is both astonishing and inspiring. Be sure to like, subscribe for more revealing stories, and share your opinions in the comments below. How would you have reacted? Steve Harvey's day began like any other. He had just finished filming a segment for his talk show in New York City, his laughter resonating through the studio halls long after the cameras had stopped rolling. His vibrant energy was contagious. The crew loved him, the audience was hooked, and he was riding high on the success of another popular episode. As evening approached, Steve felt the need for a good meal, a peaceful dinner at a fine dining restaurant where he could relax and enjoy the city's culinary delights. He chose a highly rated Manhattan restaurant, recommended by friends in the industry, known for its elegant atmosphere and flawless menu. It seemed like the perfect place to unwind. Steve made a reservation in advance to ensure everything would go smoothly. However, upon arriving, dressed in a sharp navy suit and sporting his signature smile, things took an unexpected turn. The restaurant's foyer was sleek and modern, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the bustling city streets. Inside, patrons dined at candlelit tables, their conversations softly blending with the live jazz pianist tunes. Steve approached the hostess stand and was met with a perfunctory smile from a young woman who glanced over him briefly before returning to her computer. "Good evening. I have a reservation under Harvey," he announced in his warm, friendly tone. The hostess hesitated, typing into her system. I'm sorry, Mr. Harvey, but it seems we don't have a table ready for you just yet. If you don't mind waiting, we'll call you as soon as something opens up." Steve looked around. Several empty tables were clearly visible. He raised an eyebrow, but chose not to create a scene. "Sure thing, darling. I'll wait right over there," he replied, gesturing to a small bench near the entrance. Minutes turned into half an hour. Steve watched as other patrons arrived and were promptly seated. Couples, families, groups of friends, all escorted to their tables without delay. He checked his watch. It had been 45 minutes now, yet he remained patient, though a growing discomfort settled in his chest. He could feel the sidelong glances from staff members and a few diners who recognized him, but chose not to engage. Finally, Steve returned to the hostess. "Excuse me, ma'am, I've been waiting quite a while now. I see several open tables. Are you sure there's nothing available for me?" The hostess's smile was tight, her tone curt. "I'm really sorry, Mr. Harvey, but those tables are reserved." Before Steve could respond, a well-dressed man, the restaurant manager, appeared. He placed a hand on the hostess's shoulder and addressed Steve directly. "Is there a problem here?" Steve's eyes narrowed slightly, though his tone remained polite. "Well, I'm just wondering why I've been waiting for nearly an hour when others are being seated right away. I made a reservation, and I see empty tables. I'm not sure what the issue is." The manager's expression was unreadable, but there was a subtle tension in his posture. "I'm sorry for the inconvenience. We're very busy tonight. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable dining elsewhere." Steve paused, letting the words hang in the air. He had faced moments like this before, instances where the unspoken truth was louder than anything said aloud. He took a deep breath, his voice steady but firm. "Let me ask you something. If I were someone else, would I still be waiting?" The manager glanced away briefly. "I assure you, sir, we treat all our guests equally." Before Steve could respond, a young waiter approached. He was black, no older than 25, with an air of quiet determination. "Mr. Harvey," he said softly, "I'll take care of you. Follow me." Steve hesitated, looking between the waiter and the manager, then nodded and followed the young man to a table in a quiet corner of the restaurant. The waiter handed him a menu and whispered, "I'm really sorry about all this. It's not right." Steve offered a reassuring smile. "It's not on you, son. Thanks for stepping up." As Steve began to settle in, the manager reappeared, his face tight with irritation. "This table is reserved for another guest," he said sharply, addressing the waiter instead of Steve. The young waiter straightened his back and responded respectfully. "With all due respect, sir, Mr. Harvey has been waiting for nearly an hour. He deserves to be served like anyone else." The manager's face darkened, but before he could respond, another voice interjected. A white couple at a nearby table had been watching the exchange. The woman, in her mid-40s, looked directly at the manager. "We've been here the whole time, and it's obvious what's going on. This isn't how people should be treated, celebrity or not." Her husband nodded in agreement. "It's unacceptable. We were about to leave anyway. You can give our table to him." The manager's composure cracked, his discomfort evident. Steve stood up, holding up a hand. "That's kind of you," he addressed the couple, "but I don't need anyone to give up their table for me." He turned to the manager, his voice calm, but carrying the weight of his experience and wisdom. "What I need is for people to be treated with basic respect. You don't have to like me, but you do have to be fair." The room fell silent, all eyes on Steve. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a $100 bill, and handed it to the young waiter. "Thank you for doing the right thing. Keep that spirit, young man. The world needs more people like you." With that, Steve grabbed his coat and left the restaurant. The cool evening air hit his face as he took a deep breath. He could have stayed and pushed the issue, but he knew his departure sent a powerful message. Moments like these weren't just about him. They represented the countless others who faced similar treatment every day without the platform or voice to challenge it. The incident didn't stay quiet for long. A diner had recorded part of the exchange and posted it online. Within hours, the video went viral, sparking widespread discussion about racism. Not just in overt forms, but in the subtle, insidious ways it manifests, even in progressive cities like New York. When asked about the event on his talk show days later, Steve didn't hold back. "This isn't just about me being denied a table," he said. "It's about a mindset that's still alive and well, even in places where you think we've moved past this." But let me tell you something. For every person who tries to hold you down, there's someone willing to stand up, like that young waiter or that couple in the restaurant. Courage is contagious, and we need more of it. The young waiter, as it turned out, became a minor celebrity in his own right. Steve invited him onto the show, where he shared his story and spoke about the importance of standing up for what's right, even when it's uncomfortable. As for the restaurant, public pressure led to an official apology and new training programs for their staff. Whether the changes were genuine or simply damage control was up for debate, but the incident had sparked a broader conversation, one Steve hoped would continue far beyond that night in Manhattan. In the days following the event, Steve couldn't shake the thoughts lingering in his mind. Despite the waiter's positive actions and the couple's support, the experience left a mark. He found himself replaying the situation repeatedly, questioning not just the restaurant's actions, but the broader societal conditions that allowed such treatment to persist. Back in the studio, Steve gathered his production team to brainstorm ways to address the issue head-on. He wanted to go beyond a talk show segment. They discussed creating a special episode featuring guests who had faced similar situations, both high-profile and everyday people. The goal was to highlight the countless instances of microaggressions and outright racism that occurred daily. The special episode, titled "Respect in Everyday Life," aired 2 weeks later. It opened with a heartfelt monologue from Steve, recounting the restaurant incident in vivid detail. The audience was visibly moved, their expressions ranging from anger to deep empathy. Steve then introduced a panel of guests, including the young waiter, the couple from the restaurant, and several others with their own stories to share. One guest, a Black woman named Angela, spoke about being ignored by sales staff in a high-end clothing store despite being a paying customer. Another guest, a Latino man named Carlos, recounted an experience at an airport where he was singled out for extra security checks while his white colleagues breezed through. As the stories unfolded, Steve expertly guided the conversation, injecting moments of humor and levity to balance the heaviness of the topic. His ability to connect with people shone brightly, and the audience hung on his every word. The episode concluded with a powerful call to action. Change starts with awareness. When you see something wrong, speak up. Stand up, because staying silent is just as bad as the act itself. The episode's impact was immediate and widespread. Social media buzzed with discussions. Hashtags like #RespectForAll and #EverydayRacism trended for days. Viewers shared their own experiences, creating a wave of collective storytelling that amplified the message. Meanwhile, Steve's production team continued to support the young waiter, offering him mentorship and even a scholarship to pursue his career aspirations. The couple from the restaurant also became vocal advocates for racial equality, using their newfound platform to promote inclusivity within their communities. As for Steve, the experience reaffirmed his dedication to using his voice and platform for good. He understood that the fight against racism was far from over, but he also recognized that every step forward, no matter how small, brought society closer to the world we all deserve to live in. His message was simple yet profound. It's not about perfection, it's about progress.